Hello, and welcome to our gentle booty Pilates class. So, even though I call this gentle, it's like all Pilates, you're probably going to feel a bit of a burn. But when I say gentle, it's like kind of your easier, gently warming into Pilates exercises. So you will feel a burn, but I promise you'll have an option that will be right for you. So let's get into it. We're going to start with bent knee fallouts. So find yourself onto your back. So bent knee fallouts. Firstly, let's make sure that we have a neutral pelvic alignment. So if you've never done this before, take your hands, the heel of your hands to your hip bones, fingertips to your pubic bone, and just find that position of the pelvis where your hands are pretty level. We don't want the fingertips reaching up towards the sky, and we most certainly don't want them coming down. We want to have what we call a neutral spine. So you might notice there's a little bit of a gap in the lower spine. That's completely normal. That's your natural S-curve. We want to maintain that. And to be able to maintain this position, we've got two actions that really help us. The first action is to draw the hip bones towards each other. That activates our transverse abdominis, which is like a corset of strength for us. And then we also want to think of pubic bone drawing to belly button. That activates our pelvic floor, that muscle that allows us to stop peeing, and that also supports us in so many movements. Great. So keeping that in mind, we're going to use an inhale to take our knee out towards the side. So just gently let it fall out, and then an exhale, draw it back to center. The inhale, we take the knee out to the side gently, and then the exhale, we come back to center. Okay, now it might feel like a really subtle movement, but I want you to think of this as a way of controlling your pelvis. So if you find that as you take your leg out to the side, your hips roll over to one side, then you need to focus a little bit more on those hip bones drawing towards each other. So you only want to go as far as you can take the knee out without anything else shifting. If you are rocking, you're going too far, and what can help stop that rocking is the two hip bones towards each other. So as you continue to do this, you might find that you're getting a little bit stronger, so you could take it a little bit further. If you're finding it's a real struggle to keep this, then simply just minimize the movement. Let the ego go away. It doesn't need to be here. Focus on quality over the range of movement. Good. You've got a few more left in you. And if you're feeling any discomfort in the lower back, just check that you're not arching in your upper spine. You want to think of drawing your ribs down towards your hips. Great. You've got this. One more quality control one either side. And then once you've done your final one, we'll meet back in neutral. Great work. So moving on from here, we're now going to target the glutes, which is what we are here to work on today. So for this one, roll onto your side and take your hips to the back of your mat. I would suggest using a mat, or if you don't have a mat, maybe connect your hips and your feet with a wall, just so you get the heel and hip alignment. Upper body, however, your arm's going to come through the center of your mat. Okay, and that's just as a good alignment thing to make sure that your hips don't rock too far back. So I've got my upper body, my arm through the midline of my mat, my hips are at the back of the mat, and also my heels. Now I want to maintain that neutral pelvic alignment, so even as we're going to be doing more movements, I want you to think of these two hip bones drawing towards each other and that pubic bone drawing towards the belly And you might find that you have a tiny little gap in the side of the waist, which is what we want to do, what we want to have, okay? If you start to feel any arching in the back, think of drawing the ribs towards the hips. Now, keeping our hips directly stacked on top of each other, squeeze your heels together. Take an inhale, switch on that T-zone even a little bit more, and then as you exhale, open your knees wide, keeping the heels connected. Inhale will gently draw the knees back together, and then the exhale will open. We're going to continue with this movement for the next few moments. So the inhale draws you gently back, exhale opens. Now we only go as wide as we can rotate that leg without shifting our hips back or shifting our hips forward, because as soon as we do that, we start to go into hip flexors and we take it out of our booty, which is where we want to work it. Okay, so you want to feel this around here at the top of your glutes. Good. Another thing that can really help is pressing those heels together. That's going to squeeze your booty on even more. Good. We've got a few more like this. Keep your breath nice and even. Breathe out through the mouth. That's it. If you start to feel a burn, rather than get a little bit stressed about it, think about the beauty of that's actually strengthening that muscle, which means you're going to be well supported in standing, balancing, running, jumping, whatever your day brings you. Good. You're almost there. See, I can talk, and get us through this. So last one like this, maybe squeeze, pause for a second at the top, and then gently release down. So we don't want to overwork one glute and not the other, so switch to the other side. You can simply just roll to the other side, but for purposes of you seeing me, I'm going to switch to the other side of the mat. Okay, so same idea. I've got my hips and I've got my heels in line with the back of the mat, and then my upper body, my arm comes through the center, the midline of that back. I've got my neutral pelvic alignment, so I'm thinking of two hip bones drawing towards each other, pubic bone drawing to the belly, and I can relax my head down. Good. If you start to feel any arching, think ribs to pelvis. Good. Let's squeeze on those heels straight away. Use an inhale to switch on the T-zone even tighter. Exhale, open the top hip. Inhale, back and down. The exhale is for opening up. The inhale for lowering down. Beautiful. So we want to feel this in the glute here. So just check that those hips are stacked. You're not rocking too far forward. You're definitely not rocking too far back. Okay? Only take the knees as wide as you can feel that without changing your pelvic alignment. That's it. You might notice, and I find this often, one side is stronger than the other. So one side's going to fatigue more than the other. So feel free to add in a few extra for the side that fatigues earlier. It's obviously the weaker side, and it might need a few extra reps to get it equal with the other. Good. We've got a few more here. Keep this nice and controlled. So even on the way down, it's like there's a resistance, like you almost don't want to touch the knees together. That's going to keep your glutes engaged and keep this working to your maximum. Beautiful. Let's just go for two more. Nice and controlled squeezing of the heels. For the final one here, let's pause for about 1 second. Squeeze the heels on, squeeze the heels on. Lower, gently relax. Good. So continuing on, we're going to do an extension of this one. So switch back to your original side, aligning your hips, aligning your heels, and taking the upper body through the midline. Same setup as before. We're going to do the same thing but add on, which means that the breath actually changes a little bit. So just have a look at this first one. On my inhale, I'm going to open into the clam, which was different to the way we just did it. Exhale, I'm going to extend the leg. Now, when I look down towards my leg, I don't really want to see my toe. So I definitely don't want my foot forward. I want it in line or ever so slightly back with my torso. Then I'm going to inhale back to the top of the clam position. Exhale, lower, down. Okay, so inhale will open, exhale will extend, inhale will open, exhale extend. Try this with me now. Let's take a moment just to first switch on that T-zone again. 2 hip bones towards each other, pubic bone towards the belly button. And on your next inhale, squeeze and open. Exhale, extend and lengthen. Inhale, come back to the top of the clam. Exhale gently and resisting back down. Inhale, back open. Come with me. Exhale, extend. Inhale, back to center. Exhale down. Continuing a few more times by yourself now, so you can take as long or as fast as you'd like, but go for control and quality over quantity. Sometimes going slower is either stronger. If you're finding that you're having a real hard time keeping control doing this, maybe just do another set of clams without the extension. The extension is always an option. Good. If you are finding that you're rocking a little bit as you do this, think of drawing those 2 hip bones towards each other. That will help stabilize. Let's go for 2 more here. Keep breathing. You've got this. Lengthen, lengthen, lengthen. Think of the long, lovely legs and the bootylicious booty you're going to have. Obviously, I don't use that word very often, bootylicious, but let's just say that's the cool word. Okay, and you're done. Good. Let's go the other side. So switching over, you can just roll over if that's better for you. I'm going to stay facing you. So my hips and heels are in line. I'm through the midline of my mat, and I've got my T-zone switched on. Let's make sure those hips are stacked directly on top of each other, and let's get straight away together into this. You've got the flow of this. So inhale, T-zone on, opening up the top leg. Exhale, lengthen away, either in line or slightly behind the body. Inhale to come back, flex the foot, and then exhale, gently resist back down. A few more now with your breath. So the inhale opens, the exhale extends. The inhale brings you back. Nice and slow and controlled. You've got this. Keep drawing those 2 hip bones towards each other to really stabilize. If you're finding you just need to back off a little bit, simply do the clam number 1 that we did, just the opening and the closing, okay? Great. Just check in on those hips that they're aligned and stacked on top of each other. We want to keep this in the glutes and out of the hip flexors, so that is why it's super important. Hopefully you can feel a little bit of a burn. And know that that's not a reason to be concerned. That is your glutes working, which means they're going to function wonderfully for you in real life. Last one here, and then slowly releasing down. Great. So moving on, we're going to continue, this time now targeting the gluteus minimus. So come onto your original side. Similar concept here. We've got the hand halfway through the mat. We've got the hips on the back and our heels on the back of the mat. But the only thing that's different this time is our top leg is going to extend forward so that the knees are basically stacked on top of each other. Hand can be in front to support you. So from here, you want to actually rotate that top leg so it internally rotates. So if anything, the big toe is going down towards the ground. This will help us to target gluteus minimus. So we use an inhale to tighten that T-zone, keep the hips stacked. As we exhale, we lift and float that leg to the sky. Inhale back down. Exhale, float off. Come with me if you're not already. Inhale back down. Exhale, float off. Now we can't do as many of these because our glute minimus tends to fatigue a little bit quicker. Keep rotating though. If it's really strong, make it a little gentler by not going as high. You can also think of lengthening the hip back towards the back of the mat. So we don't want to roll forward. That's going to make it almost impossible. We want to have those hips stacked. We're just going to do 3 more. Even if you're feeling a burn, see if you can smile. Embrace it. Think of the wonderful magic it's going to do to your body. Let's go for 1 more. Maybe hold, pause for a second. Hold. Release, bend it back down. Good, let's go the other side. We are almost there. So, Switching over to the other side, get your heels and hips in line, halfway through your mat in the upper body, T-zone switched on, all of the above, and then let's take this leg forward. So I've got my knees stacked, I've got my hips stacked, and I'm rolling that foot in. We use an inhale, tighten the T-zone, exhale, lift the leg up. Inhale, lower. Exhale off. I always find the second side a little bit harder because the bottom underneath glute is also working a little bit as we do it. Keep drawing the two hip bones towards each other. We're only going to do a few more on this. So let's go for about 4 more. Know that you've got it. Keep lengthening out through the toes. Keep the hip lengthening in the opposite direction. So we're going for nice long legs for 3, 2, maybe the last one. See if you can hold it for a second. And then release. We are almost there. Last one's a bit of a fun one. Come back to the original side. This time, hips, upper body in the same line. Bend the knee so it's about 90 degrees. This bottom leg's not really important. Back leg's going to go straight. Trying to keep everything still. I promise you it's going to be near to impossible. I want you to write your full name. That means first, second, third, fourth, 16th names, however many names, with your toes. Keep it quite subtle. You're going to feel this and try and avoid too much rocking. Here we go. You're going to feel ridiculous, but you're going to feel a little burn in the booty. And because you are thinking about how to spell your name with your toes, you're going to take your mind off how much you are really burning that booty. It's kind of a fun exercise, hey? Oh, don't worry, we're going to do the other side. If that brings you any solace once your name is done, release down. I know it's a little bit unfair to those who have very long names. You can always just put in your nickname if you want. Okay, other side. So same idea, hips and upper body in line. About 90 degrees of the bottom leg, other leg in line with the hips. Ready, lengthening out through the toes. Write your name again. Maybe you want to write it backwards just for fun. Oh gosh, that's really hard. Maybe just write it forward. Look, up to you. Oh, and you'll see which side is the stronger. I definitely feel that this is my weaker side. It's harder to control the movement. My whole upper body wants to start rocking to compensate. So maybe if you find one side is the weaker side, you might even go back and do it a second time. When you are done, release down. We're going to take a little glute stretch to finish off. So lying onto your back, hug your knee in. Well, it's not really hugging your knee in. Cross your leg over as if you're sitting down to read a newspaper. And then from here, my hand goes in that little triangular gap, holds on to the knees, and I draw that in. Now straight away, if you're starting to do this, jutting your chin up towards the sky, simply pause, grab yourself a pillow and take the pain out of the upper body. It does not need to be involved. We are targeting the outer hips. That's it. So a few breaths here. We have worked the glutes so much. So if you can, think of sending the breath down deep into that glute, into the outer hip. Allow as much space as possible. And maybe even say, thank you so much for working today. And then releasing. Switch the legs over, cross, flex the toes, hug the knee into the chest. Same thing. You might find a huge difference between the sides, but don't stress. We're all imperfect. We're all asymmetrical beings, so embrace it. But if you want to go back to one of the sides just to even it out a bit more, feel free to do that. Otherwise, I'm going to leave you here, hugging the knees into the chest. May you take that booty strength into your life. May it give you confidence, may it give you balance and freedom to do more and more. Thanks a lot. See you next time.